Greetings to our seniors, the class of 2021, and to all your parents and families. I'm Dr. Christy Snow. I'm one of the school counselors at Salem High School. I'm also the parent of two students who are seniors, two twins who are seniors at Salem High School as well. So I'm right there with you. This is not the school year that I would have anticipated for my own children. However, we're going to make the most of it, and here we are. Today, this video is to help you, I hope, to begin to navigate the college application process, because the college application process for the class of 2021 is looking very different than it has for the previous years. So here we go, and I hope that you find this helpful. I'm going to start by sharing my screen with a document that we plan to share with you as well. All right, so this is a guide to applying for colleges. And let me just move, there we go. Okay, so parents, it's very important that you check PowerSchool and make sure that your emails are up to date. You should be receiving correspondence from Salem High School through email. If you are not, please make sure that your email address is correct in PowerSchool. Also, make sure that the emails are not going to a spam folder. Students, this is where you need to be in the habit, if you're not already, of reading your school email account every day. It's a good habit to get into, because once you're in college, colleges are going to continue to email you as a primary source of how to communicate information to you. They're not going to send you a Snapchat. It's going to be through email. So go ahead and get into the habit. Another way is going to be through Naviance Student. Naviance Student is going to be a very important electronic platform that you're going to utilize as part of your application process. And we're going to talk more about that. Now, students, Naviance Student shouldn't be a new thing to you. However, it's probably been a while since you've looked at it. So we're going to take a look at what it's going to look like for a student who is a senior. So students, when you log on to your Naviance Student, this is more important this school year than ever before as a senior, because this is the platform that you're going to utilize to request letters of recommendation, to request your initial, your midterm, and your final transcript 3 times. You're going to have to go in to request transcript. It is also going to be where you can find right here in yellow, so that you can't miss it, a link to scholarships that Salem High School posts so that you can find them easily. Also, and this is new, generally we have the fall is full of college reps coming to Salem High School to visit with our seniors, and our seniors having the opportunity to visit with college reps. This year, they're having to do it electronically, and here is where we are listing already lots of colleges that have requested to visit with our students virtually. All of these visits are going to be on Wednesdays. However, the key is to get a spot, a virtual spot, you need to sign up at least a day ahead of time, 24 hours ahead of time, in order to secure a spot. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to go back to our document here where we're talking about Naviance Student. Okay, there's 2 ways to access it. One of the primary ways is to go to our Salem High School webpage, click on Student Resources, scroll down, Naviance Student. It is right there. While I'm on here, I'm also going to show you our school counseling webpage. This is where we have a wealth of information, and we're also listing our scholarships right here that we're aware of, but you need to use the Naviance platform through the application for these scholarships. Okay, so they're listed right here, but Naviance is where you primarily need to go to apply for these scholarships. Okay, lots of valuable information on here on our website. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the guide here. College rep visits. I hope that you'll take advantage of these. We are scheduling them on Wednesdays purposefully so that they don't interfere with class time for students who are attending on the hybrid schedule. However, just because it's virtual, there are still some rules in place. Here's some hints. Okay. Very often, the college reps who visit Salem High School and who will now be doing the virtual visits are the reps who are assigned often to read your applications from Salem High School. So therefore, if you sign up for a rep visit, please participate as if you are in person. That means have your cameras on, be ready to engage, be out of bed, don't be wearing your pajamas, don't have a hoodie pulled up and tied around your face. Be prepared to ask questions because again, you want to make a good first impression because this may be the very person that reads your application if you decide to apply to that school. Again, those are going to be listed and updated regularly under what's new. We will have more and more schools that are going to request. We'll get into this more as we go through the document, but Naviance is also going to be where you request your high school transcripts from Salem High School as part of your application process. This will be where you put in requests for letters of recommendation, which I'm going to dive in more here in just a minute as well. So again, with Naviance Student, scholarships, virtual college visits, transcripts, letters of recommendation requests. That is where you're going to access that information. Normally in the spring of the junior year, in the summer of junior year, many students visit college campuses. Unfortunately, due to COVID, most of those opportunities were canceled. However, the good part that came out of that is that colleges and universities created some really great virtual tours on their websites. If they already had virtual tours, they improved the ones that they had. So knowing that most of you did not have the opportunity to visit college campuses, please take advantage of the virtual tours that they have on their websites. Going to a college university's website is going to be your primary source of information. You're going to hear me say that over and over again through this video about visiting their websites. All right, applying to four-year colleges and university. There's no perfect recipe, okay? There's lots of different ways to get to the same endpoint, but particularly if you're the oldest child or you're an only child and this is your first time through it, your parents' first time through it, here is a general guide on where to start. But again, you need to go to college and universities' websites because they determine what platform through which they want you to apply, what their due dates are, and what components have to be submitted in order for your application to be considered complete. They set their own rules. So again, visit individual college and universities' websites. All right, COVID specific. If you would have asked me last March, I thought that we'd be back in school, regular school, by the end of April. Then when it ended up that we weren't in person, I was saying 2021 is going to be epic because we're all going to emerge from our caves and be appreciative of what we have, and it's going to be a great school year. Well, I believe it's still going to be a great school year and it can still be epic, but it's going to be different because this is certainly a non-traditional way. So just like we're having a non-traditional experience, so are the colleges and universities. Many of them are struggling right now with COVID, with whether or not to go online, whether or not to meet in person, whether or not to send their students home from their dormitories. So keep an open mind about next fall. We don't know what next fall is going to look like. It could resume and look very much like it used to look, or we could look a lot like we're looking right now, or it could be something completely different that we're not able to predict. So as you're going through this process, keep an open mind about where you might want to be next fall, because again, we don't know what next fall is going to look like. In the past, our recommendation would have been this. Apply to your dream school. If you have a dream school, but you think, wow, I don't meet the criteria to get into that school, my GPA is not high enough, apply anyway. Especially given the circumstances right now, some colleges and universities are not filling their classes at this point as far as the number of students they would like to have at their college or university. Apply. If you don't apply, you never know. But at the same time, make sure that you apply to a safety school, to a school that when you look at their website and you look at the average GPA or the average profile of an incoming freshman, you meet that, or you even meet it beyond. So apply to your dream school, but apply to a safety school. And then the recommendation has been apply to 2 or 3 in between. When we've seen students apply to 12, 15 schools, it's overwhelming. And I'll explain a little bit more about why it's so overwhelming as we go through that process. Keep it reasonable, but keep an open mind, keep a backup plan, because more than ever before, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty. All right, the timeline on where to start. Most important, again, we can give you general deadlines, but schools set their own timelines. So before you get started, you need to research on the college's website what it is that they want, when their application is due, how they want you to apply, and what constitutes a completed application. Whatever their deadline is, make sure that you meet that deadline a week before what they're asking. Because here's what we know. The unknown happens. We're living it right now, okay? But before COVID, unpredictable things still happened. There were still hurricanes. There was still illness. There were still school closures on certain days due to hurricanes in the fall. People still got ill. People still had bad days. The internet's crashed. Best example is that sometimes applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on a certain date. And we would see students that would wait until about 11:40 p.m. the night that it's due to try to submit it. Well, so were a lot of other students trying to submit their applications at the very same time. And what our students would see who procrastinated and waited to the last minute is this: spin, 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 spin. Their application was not going through. Sometimes websites crashed at schools. Sometimes applications did not make it by that 11:59 p.m. deadline. So don't put yourself in that situation. Always try to set your own deadlines a week before things are really due. In general, we tell students, take September to start thinking about things, to start thinking about where you want to apply, but use September to get acclimated to your new school year, to being a senior, your new teachers, your new classes. And then when October rolls around, be ready to roll and to begin the college application process. Because in general, you want to apply to your first choice by Halloween, your second choice by Thanksgiving, and to all your schools before winter break begins. All right, I'm going to pause right there. Some schools have a January 1st deadline for college applications. That's not a very good deadline, in my opinion, because the reason is they're closed. We're closed. You can't have your transcript submitted over winter break. You can't have your letters of recommendation submitted over winter break because we're closed. So January 1st is not a great deadline. However, some schools use it anyway. And if they do, that means you need to have everything in before winter break, which it's not a bad thing anyway. I mean, you don't really want to be spending your winter break stressed out about your college applications anyway and whether or not everything's going to make it on time. Okay, but again, colleges set their own rules. They'll tell you whether or not they want you to apply through something called the Common Application or through the Coalition or through a link on their website where they have their own college applications. But we're seeing something new this year. It's unique for the class of 2021. We're seeing something called test optional applications. In the spring, most SAT and ACT testing opportunities were canceled due to COVID. Because of that, many students in the class of 2021 have not had the opportunity to take an SAT or an ACT test. Even if they've had the opportunity, they don't have the same number of opportunities to improve their scores. And we know that in general, when a student retakes the SAT, his or her score is going to improve most of the time. So therefore, most schools are offering what's called a test optional application. When I get to the part about the SAT and ACT, I'm going to dive a little further into if you do have an SAT or ACT score, should you send it? Okay, so again, colleges set their own deadlines, but here's some general information. Early decision. You can only apply to one school under early decision, but you don't have to apply to any schools under early decision. Let me make that very clear. But if you choose to go the early decision route, you can only choose one school to which you're applying. And here's the reason. Early decision is a binding contract. You are saying, no matter what other schools that you might get into, if you get into their school and you've applied early decision, you are going to that school. That's kind of risky, especially given the nature of the circumstances that COVID has caused, because we don't know what next fall is going to look like. I have heard from numerous graduates from the class of 2020. Unfortunately, the experience that many are having at colleges this fall is not what they were anticipating. It's not what any of us could have anticipated. So again, I think keeping an open mind is a good thing to do. What I like better than early decision is what's called early action. If you apply early action to a school, you can apply to more than one school as early action, because what you're saying is, I'm super interested in your school. You are right there at the top, but I'm 17 or 18 years old, a senior during the middle of a pandemic. I don't know what next fall is going to look like, so I'm not ready to sign a bonding contract at this time. I like early action. Consider that. Another thing is rolling admission. Rolling admission is not binding either. Rolling admission schools typically will give you a decision pretty quickly, sometimes within 2 weeks. However, even if you're applying to rolling admission schools, don't put off the application process. The reason being, rolling admission schools typically will get priority for housing and even sometimes fall registration based on when you made a commitment to attend their school. And then there is regular decision, and that is non-binding, and you can apply to as many schools as you want to through regular decisions. Deadlines are typically either January 1st or January 15th. Again, January 1st, not my favorite deadline, okay? I've seen more students, more colleges move to a January 15th deadline, but you've got to check their websites to see when the application is due. All right. Requesting transcripts. Again, you're going to request your initial transcript as part of your college application process through your Naviance account. You will go back in February, at the beginning of February, in any school that you are still applying to, that you're still interested in, and you will request your midterm transcript in order for the schools to see how well you did the first semester of your senior year. And then after the national decision day of May 1st, when you have made your final decision on where you're going to attend school in fall of 2021, you will go in and select and request that your final transcript be sent to your final choice. Okay. In addition to when we send a transcript, we always send what's called a school profile. That allows colleges and universities to know our grading scale, to know typical percentages of what a Salem High School senior looks like. What is the average GPA and that sort of information, our contact information. So know that that does go with your transcript every time we send a transcript. In Naviance, if you do apply through what's called a common application, through the common app, you will need to match your Naviance account and your common app account. Very simple to do. You just simply need to know your birth date, and you need to know the email address that you've used to set up your common app account. But that is how we are going to be able to match and to send your transcript and for it to be with your common app information. Some schools, if you've taken any dual enrollment classes at Salem High School, some schools want to see your dual enrollment transcript, your transcript from Virginia Western. They make it part of the application process. If so, Mrs. Suzanne Mangum, and her email address is right here, can assist you with that process. Some schools don't want to see your dual enrollment transcript until you have chosen them, because then they're going to utilize that to see what they're going to accept as dual enrollment credit. Just a helpful hint, when you request a dual enrollment transcript from Virginia Western, have one sent to your home address as well, because that way when you receive yours at home, then you can have some security of knowing that your transcript was also sent from Virginia Western to the schools to which you're either applying or the school that you are attending. All right, that brings me to letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation. Some schools do not want a letter of recommendation because they say that they really aren't that helpful in their process of determining who they're going to accept and who they're not going to accept. Some schools say that they want one letter of recommendation. Do not send them more than one letter of recommendation. They're not going to read more than one letter of recommendation. Other schools are going to say you have to have at least one letter of recommendation in order for your application to be considered complete. So it's important, again, that you go to the college's website to see what it is that they want as part of the application process. Now, here's a problem students have run into. They've gone into Naviance, they've requested all sorts of letters of recommendation from teachers, and they didn't need that many. Sometimes, most of the time, even the schools that want letters of recommendation are going to put a cap on the number that they're going to accept. So if you go in and you request 3 different teachers to write you a letter of recommendation, and the school has a cap of only 2 letters, the first 2 letters that go through are going to be the ones that the school receives, and then it's going to lock. And that 3rd letter, when that teacher prepares it, will not be able to be submitted through Naviance. Now the problem is, what if that 3rd letter was the one that you most wanted the schools to see? That was your favorite teacher and you really wanted that letter to go. Now you're locked out. So again, be very careful. As part of this whole process to begin with, the starting point for letters of recommendation is not Naviance. The starting point is you. You need to create some sort of resume. It doesn't have to be a formal template, but some sort of resume in order to give the teacher, your recommender, some direction on what it is you want highlighted in your letter of recommendation. So you need to politely go to your teachers, present them with some sort of resume, and ask if they would be willing to write a letter of recommendation on your behalf. And you do this before you ever input a request into Naviance for a letter of recommendation. Now, students who are 100% online, given the nature of the circumstances this year, it is completely appropriate for you to write a well-composed professional email to a teacher asking for a letter of recommendation. However, please use correct punctuation. Do not write it in all lowercase letters. And do remember to attach a resume. You should give teachers at least a week's notice. Do not ask a teacher the day or the day before an application is due to write you a letter of recommendation. They do have the right to decline, okay? It is common courtesy to give people at least a week in order to write your letter of recommendation. Also, going back to that January 1st deadline. If it is a school that has a January 1st deadline, teachers are not expected to write letters of recommendation over winter break. So do not come to them the day before winter break or the day of winter break and ask for a letter of recommendation. You've got to back up that deadline and you need to give that teacher respect and at least a week to submit your letter of recommendation. Okay, then after you have worked with the teachers, that's when you go in Naviance and you make the request. As part of this, you are going to receive a handout on the Naviance college application process, it's going to look like this. Most students are able to navigate Naviance through this by using this handout. If not, please put in an e-hall pass. If you are a hybrid student, we are happy to help you with this. If you are not a hybrid student, please send us an email and we're happy to help you through this process. If you have someone you wanted to utilize as a reference who does not work for Salem City Schools, please speak with your school counselor first. Do not go into the Common App and input actually anyone's email directly into the Common App. There's a situation in which that causes your Common App account to lock up. All recommendations need to be put in directly through Naviance, not into your Common App account. Okay, so before you do something that locks up your account, please correspond with your school counselor first. When in doubt, don't put it in, speak to a counselor first. All right, as you're applying to schools, now this is one of the reasons that we say keep it manageable, the amount of schools that you're applying to, because for every school, or for most schools, you're going to have to create a guest account, which means that you're going to have to keep track of usernames and passwords for all those guest accounts. So I recommend that you get some kind of password keeper, perhaps if you have a cell phone, and keep your information there, because some of them are going to give you the password. You're not even going to be able to create your own, and they're not necessarily going to be things that are easy to memorize. But it's important that you check your college guest account regularly, because this is how you're going to know whether or not your application is considered complete. Salem High School is not going to receive information from colleges and universities telling us that our students have completed the application process. You have to take charge. You have to check these guest accounts. Now, also, this is the way that you're going to find out whether or not you've been accepted. A certain day at a certain time, you're going to know that you're going to be able to log into your guest account and look for that acceptance. Okay? So again, use your college guest accounts to make sure your applications are complete. If you have requested your transcript and you're seeing in your guest account that they have not received your transcript, get in touch with your school counselor, okay? It does take a few days for things to process, even on the college's end, once we have sent it. But if you think there is a problem, let us know. All right, ACTs and SATs. We do not have your official SAT or ACT scores at Salem High School. In order to send an official score, in order for a college or university to consider a score as official, it has to come directly from College Board, which is SAT, or from your ACT account. It is not considered official. Even if we have the information, if it comes from us, it is not considered official. It has to come directly from the SAT or the ACT. Okay, so perhaps you have not had the opportunity to test due to COVID. All right, so what that means is that you need to be looking at schools that have a test optional application. Here's the good news. Most of the schools to which most of our Salem High School graduates apply have already announced that for the class of 2021, they are going to have a test optional application. All right, so that's good news. Let's say that you had the opportunity to take the SAT or the ACT. How do you know whether or not to send that score? That's a question that we've gotten a lot so far this fall. Here's what you do. Again, you go back to individual college and universities' websites and you look at the profile of their incoming freshmen. What is their incoming freshman from the class of 2020 already, or the class of 2019, whatever data they have up, what was their average SAT score or ACT score? If your score is above the average, then that perhaps strengthens your application, and my recommendation would be then to send your score. If your score is below, which it might be, because again, The class of 2021 is not having the same amount of opportunities to test and to improve your scores. So your score may be below average. And if so, consider going with the test optional application. And on the test optional application, highlight other things about yourself that strengthen your college application. Okay, Fafsa. This is where we really need parents to listen up. This is the free application for federal student aid. Some schools make the Fafsa, completing the Fafsa, actually an application requirement, because we've had some situations in which parents say, my child is not going to qualify for anything. I don't understand why I have to do the Fafsa. Well, the reason that it has to be done in many situations is because it is a part of the process. It is part of the application process that an individual school requires. If you are hoping to receive some kind of aid, then you have to do this in order to receive that aid. Okay, here is the website. This is the website to use. If you are on a website and they are trying to charge you some kind of fee to complete the Fafsa, you're on the wrong website. Okay, so do not pay to complete the Fafsa. The Fafsa opens October 1st. Again, colleges are going to set their own deadlines as to when it has to be due, but truly, there's really no reason to put off doing the Fafsa. Get it done in October if you can. Now, you're going to need to do the Fafsa every year that your child is in college, for every child that you have. The first time through with your oldest child is rather intimidating, but after you get through it one time, you realize it's not as big of a deal as what it seems to be. It's actually gotten a lot easier than it has been in the past. Now, Virginia Western in the past also has been offering free help sessions on Saturdays. And these were awesome because it didn't matter whether or not your child was planning to even apply to Virginia Western. These were community events and they were there to help. Well, due to COVID, they can't offer these events, but they are planning, from what we've been told, to put together some really good help session videos. And once they do, and we become aware of them, we are going to link them on our school counseling website. So if you need assistance, please look for those to come. While talking about Virginia Western, many people have heard of Ccap. Ccap is basically a fancy acronym for a scholarship to Virginia Western. This is a tremendous opportunity. Now, it's not a guarantee. You know, sometimes people think, oh, well, it's a guaranteed thing that if you go to Salem High School, you're eligible for Ccap. First of all, one of the main criteria is that you have to have a cumulative GPA of 2.5 or higher. Now, the word cumulative, that means all of your courses that you've taken since your classes became credit bearing. Some of them started in 7th, some started in 8th grade for some students. Some students that transferred in from other divisions might not have started until 9th grade. Cumulative, they are not interested in semester GPAs. They are interested in cumulative GPAs. All schools are. So to be eligible for Ccap, you must have a 2.5 or higher. That's the main criteria. But here is the thing that prevents students from receiving the Ccap more often than not. More often than not is because they did not have a completed application by February 1st, which is the deadline. So Ccap's application opens October 1st, same day the Fafsa opens. Fafsa is a huge part of the Ccap application, by the way. But it is due by February 1st. That gives a long time to do it. However, that February 1st deadline is firm. Okay, we've had students who are like, oh, January 31st, they're like, I want to apply for that Ccap thing. I have not yet known of a student who started the Ccap process on January 31st who was able to complete it by the deadline. Okay, so there's no reason to put that off. Even though you can have until February 1st, I would recommend if you're applying to Ccap, do it in October. And again, Virginia Western, they used to come out to the school. They're not going to be able to do that in person, but they do plan to put together a video that once they do, we are going to link it to our website. And I do believe that they are also signing up to do the virtual visits as well on one of the Wednesdays. So look for that as an opportunity. All right, our contacts for Ccap are listed right there. Mrs. Dooley and Mrs. Kramer, they are both excellent people. So once you apply, if you have any questions, those are your contacts. If you're having problems with your application, they will email you back. All right, scholarships. Salem High School will post scholarships on Naviance, and also we will list them on our school counseling webpage as a reference. But primarily, you should be going through Naviance to see the scholarships that Salem High School is familiar with, and as we receive information about them. However, we're not the only means to discover scholarships. There are many common search engines out there. One of the ones that lots of students use is called fastweb.com. Now, I'm going to pause here to caution you about something. If you come across a search engine that is requesting a fee, charging you money to apply for a scholarship, personally, I'm weary of those search engines. I have yet to know of a student who paid to apply to a scholarship win a scholarship. Now, if I ever hear of a student who's paid to apply for a scholarship and won the scholarship, then maybe I'll change my mind. But for now, I'm weary of those websites that try to charge you fees. So make sure that you're cautious about that sort of thing. Another place to look for scholarships are through parents' employers. Sometimes there are employers that offer scholarships only to employee students, civic organizations, churches, if you're a member of a church, also grandparents. Sometimes grandparents are members of organizations that also allow their grandchildren, not just their children, but their grandchildren to apply. So talk to your grandparents about any professional organizations that they may, or civic organizations that they may be members of. A big one, college and university specific scholarships. Now, apply. If you don't apply, you cannot win, okay? But here's what's tricky about some of the college and university scholarships. Some of them are due, their general scholarships are due before a student who has applied regular decision even knows whether or not they've been accepted. Okay, I know it's more work, but go ahead and apply for whatever they're offering, even if you don't know whether or not you're going to be accepted to that school. Because what happens is that scholarship deadline comes and goes. And then a student finds out they've gotten in and wants to attend that school, but has missed the deadline for the general scholarship program for that college or university. Okay. I hope that this has been helpful so far. There are a lot of common questions that we get as students go through the applications and fill them out. So we've listed here some of the most notable questions and the answers to those questions that we hope will help you. But please, as you're completing your applications, don't hesitate to send us a quick email. What is my cumulative GPA? And those sorts of questions. Here's answers though. We do not class rank. We have 304 seniors and we do not rank you from 1 to 304. We use what's called a decile ranking system. Okay, so we say that students are in the top 10%, the top 20%, the top 30%, the top 40%, and so on. So to find out what percentage you fall into, the only way you're going to know that information is to contact your school counselor. So send your school counselor a quick email. What percentage am I in? Okay, that is also information that we have to provide on our side when we're filling out the counselor profile for a student when we send that with the transcript. So we want to make sure that what you are reporting is what we are reporting as well. So make sure that information is accurate. Do not take a guess on where you think you might fall. Your GPA is weighted. We do not have unweighted GPAs at Salem High School. your weighted GPA was on your transcript that you should have received this summer. If you don't have your transcript, you don't know where it is, simple. Email your school counselor for your cumulative GPA. Now, sometimes I'll have a student email me and say, what's my cumulative GPA? And I'll respond. A week later, they'll say, what's my cumulative GPA? And I'll be like, it's the same as it was last week. And they keep going. Listen here. Your GPA is not going to be recalculated again until after the end of first semester. Towards the end of January, beginning of February, we recalculate the GPAs, we look at the decile rankings again, and we create a new transcript for you, okay? So once you have your initial cumulative GPA this fall, it's not going to change again until end of January, beginning of February, when semester 1 grades are recalculated in there, okay? Also, at that time, any school to which you are still applying, remember, you need to send that midterm transcript, and the way that it goes out is by going into Naviance and this time requesting your midterm transcript so that colleges can see your updated information. This is a little tricky. Our GPA scale is a 4.0, and I know that we have students that have over a 4.0 because they've taken AP or IB or pre-IB classes that were weighted. So on that question, when they ask for our GPA scale, the answer is 4.0 is our GPA scale, even if you have a cumulative GPA that is higher than that. Some other common questions are and answers are listed right there. A word of advice for like the coalition application, in which you have to input every individual course that you've taken and for which you've received credit. Use your high school transcript. If you do not have that transcript, again, if you don't know where that copy is from the mailing this summer, because I know it's been a long time and a lot has happened, email your school counselor and ask for an electronic copy. Salem High School does not charge for transcripts, not even to our alums. We do not believe in charging for transcripts, and we are happy to send an electronic transcript because it will make it a lot easier if you can have that in front of you when you input that information into the Coalition app, because the Coalition app does ask for a lot of information. Now, one of the things is FERPA, and whether or not you waive your right to view recommendations. Our recommendation to you is to waive that right because it gives more credit to your letters of recommendation. First of all, if you don't trust somebody to write a good recommendation on your behalf, that is not the person to ask for a letter of recommendation, okay? If you don't waive your letter of recommendations as far as being able to have the right to view them, what you're saying to the college admissions is that, I don't really trust these people, or maybe I have something that I'm hiding. It just is very uncommon. Most people waive it. And when students initially don't waive it, it's often because they didn't know the right answer to that. And then they'll go back and fix that. So I do encourage you to answer it correctly, to consider waiving it the first time, because it does make your application more creditable to the admissions offices. We are not the only Salem High School. We are not the only Salem High School in the country, nor are we the only Salem High School in the state of Virginia. Now, in my opinion, we are the best Salem High School in the world. However, we're not the only one. So make sure that when you are identifying which Salem High School that you attend, whether it is through your college application or something else for which you're applying, that you utilize the right school code. Now, the school code can be found on our counseling webpage, but it's also listed right here. Okay, because please note, there is a Salem High School in the Virginia Beach area. We regularly get emails and phone calls and things in which people that were looking for a student in the Virginia Beach area, they have put us down as their school and they've made a mistake. So don't make that mistake and identify the wrong Salem High School as your school on your transcripts. Okay, so midterm transcript requests need to occur in beginning of February, and then when you make your final decision, you need to go back into Naviance and put where you are attending and request your final transcript. Now, sometimes students forget to do this, and then what happens is they get on campus and they're there for a day or two, they've moved in, and then they find out their schedule has been locked. And it's locked because the school never received, their college or university never received a final transcript because the student forgot to go into Naviance and to request that. Okay, so make sure that that doesn't happen to you. Also, another way that students run into issues once they're on a college campus in the fall is they need to report their shot records. And sometimes that information has been lost by families. So if you don't know where that information is, it would not hurt during the school year to go ahead and contact your pediatrician or former doctor's office and try to obtain that information, because we've had situations over the summer of knowing of students where their shot records, families were not able to find them and they had to get a whole bunch of shots before they went off to college. Another way that accounts will get locked up at schools, males, once you turn 18, you are required to register for the Selective service. If you do not, it might be that you're able to enroll and attend your fall classes, but generally around October, November, colleges catch up with that and they will lock your account and you'll be unable to register for your spring classes. So if you're 18 already and you haven't registered for the Selective service, you need to take care of that. So when you turn 18, happy birthday, register to vote, and if you're a male, you need to register for the Selective service. Oh, I lost connection there. Sorry about that. I am back. Let me try to go back to my share screen. All right. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. We are here for you. Here is the information about our school counselors and how to get in touch with them. Mr. Barrett has students with last names A through E. I have students last names F through J. Ms. Arbogast has K through Q. Mrs. Parrish is R through Z. Our school counseling secretary is Mrs. Chitwood. And our advanced studies, who is our liaison with Virginia Western, there is her email, and she can also help with requesting transcripts from Virginia Western, whether that is part of the college application process for you, or if that is something you need to do at the end of your senior year. We are here to help. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can help you. We hope that you have a great senior year. We look forward to working with you. We are here for you, and we wish you well and all the best that this school year can offer you. Take care, stay well, stay sane, stay healthy.